Morning everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Yun. Today I'm going to start out by feeding cows. We got a total of 5 batches of feed to make. 2 for the milk cows, 1 for the dry cows, 1 for the young heifers, and then 1 for the steers. We're going to start out by pulling the feed wagon and the loader out of the shop. Drove the feed wagon tractor to the silage pits. We always have to drive one out here. Now we're gonna hop in the loader, and before we mix our first load, we're gonna go and check all of the feed bunks and the feed alleys in the barns and see how much is left over, what we're doing there. We just wanna make sure that we're not feeding the cows too much, because then they'll waste the feed. It'll go bad if we leave it in the bunks for too long. So we wanna make sure that we're kind of feeding them exactly what they're gonna eat. A little bit more, a little bit less. Make sure we're on top of it. Drove past all the corrals in the barns, wrote down how much everybody needs on our record sheet. Now we're gonna start filling the first load, which is for the dry cows. I'm gonna turn the PTO of the tractor on so it starts the mixer wagon. Some of these loads are pretty big, and if we don't start mixing while we're loading it, it's gonna overflow. If I were to turn it on after I throw all the ingredients in, it just gets the feed underneath the screws in the feed wagon, and that allows you to put a little bit more feed in there. So this is our weight permeate tank. It's under the ground, just on a stick, goes into the wagon. You can see the trucks here filling it up right now. He just lets it gravity flow into the tank. The weight permeates, we just put a bit of water in the wagon too yet, and then this load is ready to be dumped. Just pulling through the feedlot here, we're going to start dumping this load right away. One thing that I'm looking at while I'm going to be dumping this load is for the cows to be coming up and eating. If there's any ladies that are hanging out there not coming up to eat, they could be sick, so that's something to watch for as you're feeding. So the first load is fed, and that went to the dry cows and the close-up cows in the barn. Now we're gonna start mixing a milk cow load. I'm gonna quickly go to the calf barn over there and check if they need any silage. We always feed them a little bit of milk cow TMR right before we're gonna move them out of the calf barn and into the corrals. This kind of gets those calves used to eating a silage before they go out in the corrals, and it kind of smooths their transition out there a little bit better for them. So we can see there, they're pretty much out, so we'll mix them 200 kgs of feed. They still have a bit of feed here, but I imagine it's been there for a couple days, so we should probably just scoop it over into their pen and get them some fresh stuff. We got the milk cow mix completely done. It's just mixing up. We always mix it for 15 minutes after the last ingredient goes in the wagon, just to make sure it's all evenly distributed throughout that feed wagon. The next thing we're gonna do before we dump it is scoop up all of the rejects we have in the barn here. We switched it up a little bit. We used to feed for 0 rejects. We'd expect the cows to clean up 100% of the feed, but now we started feeding them a little bit more every day, and we like to see a little bit of the silage left over every morning, which we'll scoop out. That doesn't go to waste. We actually feed it to our steers in the corrals. So this is supposed to make the cows produce a couple % more milk, and something we're trying out now because we need the milk from the cows. So we're gonna hop in that clean skid steer and scoop this silage up. This is the rejects out of the cow barn. We'd like to see a bit more in here. This is not a lot at all. When we started doing it, we had a whole bucket full, which works out pretty good. That's about all the silage the steers would need. But we fed them quite a bit more this morning, so tomorrow there'll be a lot more. Milk truck's here picking up the milk. But our load's been mixing now for long enough. We're gonna go dump it in front of the milk cows. We got all the feed dumped for the milk cows. Now we're gonna feed the last 200 kgs to the calves in the calf barn. So just got the wheelbarrow here. We roll it up to the feed wagon and fill it up. We just dumped the last load in front of the milk cows, so we're done feeding for this morning. We parked the loader and the tractor back in the shop where we got them from this morning. And hopefully this afternoon it's gonna rain. I gotta milk this afternoon, so nothing beats standing in the parlor with the door open, watching it rain. Hopefully that's what my afternoon looks like. It is 2 days after we finished feeding cows that afternoon, and I was not able to watch the rain while I was milking that afternoon, but that's okay because later on that night it started dumping on us, and we did end up getting a decent little chunk of rain. 16 millimeters or 5/8 of rain is what the farm ended up getting, which is an absolute godsend for us because our fields were bone dry, and this is gonna perk everything up and get it to that next stage of growth, and hopefully we'll get another shower in a week or two and start to see some real feed growing out in the fields. And that's gonna take a lot of weight off of our shoulders. It's gonna eliminate a lot of stress that we've been having this summer so far, so that's good. What I'm starting with this morning, I'm gonna start moving the dry distiller's grain out of that tall white bin and dumping it on the floor of one of our silage pits. That is because the guys that are setting up the grain leg for our new feed mill setup showed up yesterday, and they're wanting to get these bins moved into place tomorrow or the day after. So we got to empty that big tall bin. That's only about 1.5 rings in there, so that they can bring a crane out here and set it in place. They like to get those bins in place before they're actually going to put the grain leg up, I guess, which makes sense. You can see here they're putting the buckets on the belt. This one's for the bigger grain leg. I had no idea what these looked like. It's actually pretty cool. They're just a bunch of buckets that are going to be going up and down. Figured I better hop out and check and make sure I'm going to get underneath that auger. Looks like I'm going to fit pretty easily, but I can also move over an extra foot, which is going to allow me to fill the truck box a lot better. So I'm definitely going to do that. Got our first truck out of that bin. It filled up pretty nicely, actually. I was about to dump it, but that rain kind of made a mess in our silage pit, so I just want to scrape all this muck out of here. It's just silage that's blown from the wind and some chopped straw, and then it got soaked. Put some dust in there, and you got a mess. Well, it's still a little bit wet, but that's a lot better. Well, shortly after we finished feeding this morning, it started to rain, and it's been raining for the last 5 or 6 hours now. And we've got another 16 mils of rain today. We were forecast to get maybe 2 to 4 today. We ended up getting 16. So we got incredibly lucky for another nice shot of rain. That puts us at around just over 30 mils in the last 2 days, which is incredible. We absolutely needed that. It was bone dry in the fields, but now we have plenty of rain, and this will carry us over for probably another 2 weeks and really start to put some tonnage in those fields, which we also really need because our feed bunks are getting kind of low. But a rain like this is just, it's incredible to get. So we're really lucky. I was not able to finish taking the dry distiller's grain out of that tall white bin. I'll do that tomorrow morning, but no worries, because totally worth it to get this bit of rain. It looks like it's starting to give up a bit though. I got some stuff to do in the barn, like clean some alleys in that straw pack and needle some cows, so we'll get that done this evening yet. Last fall we did a bit of dirt work behind the barns to make sure everything drained nicely, and we really got to see that work here. We got a couple clips of it just pouring rain and the drainage working away, so I'll put those up right now. Got the alleys nice and clean. Still can't get 100% of the manure away from underneath these brushes. Maybe if we ever buy a new tire scraper, we can buy one that's a little wider. Might stick out a bit further underneath that brush. But now this is looking good.
That's it for today's video. If you liked it, hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. I can't. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next video.